My Wi-Fi keeps switching to another Wi-Fi. Anyway, I'll stop. How is everybody? How you guys doing? So let's wait and see how many people get on before I get into it. So the subject, as in the title, we're going to do a few things. We're going to talk about what you could include in a portfolio site in 2021 as a developer, web designer, web developer. I'll give you some basic tips that are very important. And then we're going to answer a couple of questions put to me by a student of mine in my mentoring program. I thought it was an interesting subject. And finally, we're going to go into a little bit of Golang. We're going to tangent into Golang, maybe look at some Golang stuff. And yeah, that's about it. So hopefully the stream will be pretty good now. You let me know if the stream's looking pretty good. Hello, John. I hope you are well. Ooh, let me get this down here. There we go. Splinter. First one to get here. All waiting for you, Stef. All right. Thanks for joining the live stream. I figured 6:41 here Saturday. I felt like doing a stream. I say, what? I was going to do a pre-recording, but anyway. All right. Thank you, Mr. Khan. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching. So just give me a thumbs up or say we can hear you. Video is clear. Let me know. Put it in the comments. Video is clear and we can hear you. And Australia Willis. Is it cold outside in Canada right now? Yeah. When it gets cold, I have a habit of keeping my hat on all the time. 2:41 a.m. You're up late. That's a good sign that you are a coder. AG. Steph, I love your channel. I'm new and motivated. Fantastic. Well, welcome to the channel. Yeah. I'm here to help more or less with the perspective of a developer who's been doing this for decades now. There's a lot of people going to teach you a little, going to try to teach you about this or that and the other thing in terms of the individual languages or frameworks. I'm here to teach you how to make money with your coding besides learning how to code. So, yeah. So, hello. Is this live? This is live. This is live. For sure it is. Everything is clear. Fantastic. Video is clear and we can hear you. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. Good. I always have to check in on this. Thanks, Rob. Because, sometimes technical issues, I don't want to jump into it. So let's just, wow, India, 5:13. Okay, you're up early. Good. Okay, so let's just, first thing, people always ask me to recommend books. This is, if you're an experienced developer, there's a book you should get. There's a link in the description, but there's a new version that teaches with JavaScript. This one teaches with Java. This is Refactoring. This will teach you how to make your code much better. And if you're a total noob and you want to learn the basics of the web stack, my book, Web Design Start Here. Lots of pretty diagrams, lots of pictures, lots of details. Will give you a really good understanding of the web. People always ask me that. And what's these? What are these? These are editions 1, 2, and 3 of the Lizard Wizard, which I'm working on now. So I'm excited about that. All right. So cheers, everybody. So let me just jump into the subject, and then we'll do a little Q&A, okay? All right. So here we go. Bang. I think that comes through. There we go. Okay, web dev portfolio site should include, okay, so this is a question that got put to me by somebody, and I figured I would just answer the question here. I've got a good website going so far. Too far, okay, so far he meant. Surprised how much I have learned. He's learning from my mentoring program. He's doing StudioWeb, so that's cool. Just wondering if I should just add on, no, this is about his portfolio. Just wondering if I should just add on pictures of the projects, or do they have to be links? So that is the first question about how should you include projects in your portfolio site? What should you do in that situation? So let's jump into that. You want to have, if at all possible, local copies of any type of work you've done for clients. Why local copies? So let's say you built a couple web apps for some client or websites. What often happens, especially with websites, not so much web apps, but especially websites, your clients are going to go ahead at some point and change things. And they may not call you, and they may go in there and get somebody else and they'll just make it look bad, or they'll break it, or they'll take it down, whatever. So yeah, when you're building your portfolio site, whether you're a web designer, developer, web developer, whatever it is, you should have local copies of the work, and so that you can demonstrate locally on your local server what it is you did do. And maybe have a link reference to the original project. And just mention that. Say, here is a project. I've created a local copy. You can see the real one, the live one in action at this link. And here's the local copy. This way, you always have that local copy, just in case something happened. You know, maybe your client decides to take it and they go out of business or something. So yeah, don't just have pictures. You can have a picture of a thumbnail maybe, but if you can show the real thing, or you know, that's very much more powerful than just having pictures or thumbnails. Okay, let me dive in. All right. Okay, so that's okay. What else? You know what? Instead, he's going to go into his switching to JS and Golang questions. So let me just come back here. The portfolio site. I always tell people, make sure it's like your modern day business card, right? If you're looking to get jobs as a freelancer or get a full-time job, you should have a site of your own on the web, your own URL. And the reason being is that it could be a place to build your own. Think of it as like virtual real estate, right? Your own place, your own home, your own store. And it's there for you to be able to showcase who you are. You don't want to rely on a Facebook page or your Instagram account or Twitter or whatever. You want to have your own place so you can make sure that the design looks good and modern, make sure it's reflective of the type of work that you do, and make sure in that portfolio site you emphasize whatever skill sets you want to monetize at that time. So let me translate that into English. If you want to be a JavaScript developer, make sure you push to the top of your portfolio site JavaScript related projects that you've done, the training that you've done, the certifications you may have. Don't put up your Golang experience or your Java experience. You push that below. Whenever you are approaching an employer to get a job, you make sure you gotta tailor your resume, your offline resume and your online website / resume portfolio site. You have to tailor it so that it's congruent, it matches with whatever the employer you're looking to go work for is interested in, right? If they're interested in JavaScript programmers, make sure you emphasize the JavaScript. So another thing is make sure that website looks good. It has to look good. If you're not a designer, just use a template. Use a very simple but clean template. Make sure your images are really good. Make sure your writing is clean, simple, no spelling errors, good grammar. I'm telling you, all these things are very important because people are going to judge you right off the bat based on that, okay? What else should you have in your portfolio? That's it. Make sure the contact information is obvious, findable. You know, think about it. If you go to an e-commerce site and you can't, it looks like it's hard to contact somebody, do you trust it? No. So if you're looking for somebody to hire you, basically throw money at you, you gotta create this appearance that you're reachable, you're transparent about everything. You know, if you look at my site, it's very easy to contact me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's pretty much. I think that's it for a portfolio site. Let's jump into switching to JS. So he's got some skill. We'll switch to JS. So funny to tell you this, but the more I am trying to switch to the JS world, JS is JavaScript, of course, the more I'm getting good clients on PHP. And it's becoming hard to switch. Yeah, you know, one of the realities of the freelance world, that there's a huge amount of jobs in PHP. PHP is this weird thing where it's like the girl nobody wants to admit they're dating, but everybody's dating. A lot of business people, a lot of small businesses use PHP in some form or another. And so there's a lot of work in PHP. A lot of it comes down to WordPress and other content management systems that leverage WordPress. And because a lot of developers don't like working with with PHP, they don't like working with WordPress either, there's a lot of opportunity there. So a lot of people are willing to jump into that game, the PHP / WordPress / CMS world / small business world as a freelancer, there's a lot of business opportunity. There's a lot of money to be made simply because a lot of developers don't want to do that. They want to do something else, you know. So, you know, one of my mentors used to always tell me, you know, when you get out there in the real world, you know, whether it be development or business or whatever, when you go out there, you're going to see there's a lot of opportunity. When you start shaking that tree, that money tree, the business tree, the job tree, and when you're able to bring something to the table in terms of skills and professionalism and good communication, you can have so many opportunities. And I remember one day, a long time ago, 8,000 years ago, when I was a young lad, I went to see one of my mentors, ran a very big company, ran a $50 million company. It was good size. And he said to me, Stef, the key when trying to decide what opportunity to take is to follow the money. Follow the money. See where the demand is. See who's willing to pay you more, right? That is how you differentiate, you know, because what's going to happen in the end, yes, we all have our preferences. Some people prefer JavaScript. Some people prefer, whatever, PHP, Python. Nobody likes Ruby. Okay, some people like Ruby. I'm just kidding. You have all your preferences, but when you get to a certain level as a developer, you're going to find that it all kind of seems the same. It all kind of evens out. You're just developing. Some aspects of PHP are going to make you go, ugh, I don't like this. But some aspects of Java are going to do the same thing. And some aspects of Java and JavaScript are going to do the same thing. No language is perfect. No tech stack is perfect. Of course, we do have personal preferences. But at the end of the day, if they're paying you, that's the key, you know? All right, so let's jump into the next one. All right, the next case. This is all from somebody in my mentoring group. So about Golang, says, I also have interest in learning Golang, already studied the basics of it, but it's not that easy to find jobs on Golang at the moment, I think. Yeah, Golang is more of a young nerdling fantasy. No, it's good. I'm pretty sure it's good. We'll take a quick look at it. I've never done any Golang, so we're going to take a quick look at Golang, but very, very shallow look. It's not going to be a tutorial, that's for sure. Give me some idea how to decide. I'll read this verbatim. Give me some idea so I can decide. You should reread a sentence. But should I switch to JS World or not, or should I switch to Golang? Again, two things, eh? You follow the money. That's number one, follow the money. Number two, there's a lot of money in JavaScript, no question. But, and you can start putting out, once you have your JS skills or your Golang skills up to speed, you can start slowly putting out feelers. What do I mean by that? You can start looking for jobs, offering those skills, and see what happens. But I would only, if you want to switch from one technology stack to another, or from one job to another, I always suggest to people that you do it gradually. You don't want to cut yourself off from your money flow, from your current moneymaker, into something else with some expectation to make a lot of money. You don't know, especially when you're starting something new. That being said, if you're good at PHP, and this guy seems to be making money with PHP, for you to switch to JavaScript or Golang would be pretty easy. So you could probably spend a couple hours a week just to get up to speed a little bit, and after a few weeks, after like a few hours, you should be able to put together JS code reasonably well, or Golang code, right? Because it's very similar, okay? Yeah. So now the last thing, let's take a look at the Golang site. I'm just curious about that. So I've never been. So here's the Golang site. This is the homepage of the Golang site, what we see when we go there. I think everybody can see. Yeah, everybody can see. Good. So right here, you can actually type in Golang and get a result. So look, you got import, you got a package, you got to import, just like Python, just like PHP, just like Java. So I've never used Golang before. So as we're doing this, I have never used it. So you got a main package. So that's like I assume that's like a module in Python. It just brings in a whole bunch of code. And then from the main package, they have a FMT class, I suppose. So you got the import FMT, and then you got a main function. Just like Java has a public static int main. I guess Golang is not strongly typed here. Function main. So what's a main function? A main function is simply the first function that a piece of software will run. So Java has its main function. JavaScript doesn't have that, not in the context of the web end, but maybe in the back end. So here's, again, similar concepts between Java, Python, and Go. Again, I've never looked at Go before, so we go back, and so function main. So this is the first thing that is run when the Golang program starts up, the main function, so you can load in classes, shit, and so forth. So what happens here is using the format FMT, I suppose that's format, the format object class which contains the print line method or function, and it is writing hello and this in Chinese. So if we run the code, waiting for server, boom, hello, boom, program exit. So see, I've never wrote Golang ever in my life. I've never looked at Golang before, not the code anyway. And I was able to pretty much describe what's going on here. Why? Because it's all the same. It's all very similar. It's all very similar. So I changed this argument. Hello, live streamers. There we go. Exclamation point. Let's run that code. Boom. Hello, live streamers. So pretty simple stuff, you know. So as you can see, again, as I've been teaching people for years now, because I know all these different languages, even though I'm not really an active programmer these days, it was pretty easy for me to figure out the basics of Go, right? So as you can probably tell now, I could probably get up to and running if I spent like, what, a minute now? So I understand they got packages, they got the import method, they got a main function. Okay, I understand what does that. I know that they use the dot operator. If I go back here, just like in JavaScript and in Java, I think in also C#, they got a dot operator. It's called a pointer. So this is telling you the print line function or method rather is in the format object, etc., etc. Very common. No big deal. So that's why when I talk to people and I say, listen, don't worry about the language so much because you can switch around if no big deal. You just watch me in real time within a minute. I just kind of, imagine if I spent like 20 minutes, I'd be 20 times ahead, right? Concepts are concepts. They're universal. That's why, anyway, you get it. There we go. How are we doing now? 18 minutes. All right. We'll do a little bit of Q&A now. I think I got that covered. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you guys like this style. It's kind of cool, I think. And so I assume everybody can hear me clear. Everybody can hear me clear. Yeah, it's my book. Yeah, it's. I wrote it a few years ago, but it doesn't matter. It's still pretty good. I wrote it to be evergreen. HTML5 hasn't changed. CSS3 hasn't changed. HTTP hasn't changed. The web stack hasn't changed, etc. All right. Yeah. What do you think of JetBrain Academy? I don't know. I've never seen it. At the end of the day, I assume Academy it's a learning platform. At the end of the day, you have to. Thanks for letting me know. You have to have good teachers. That's it. At the end of the day, good teachers. Teacher's job, there's two jobs that a teacher has to perform. And I come from a family of teachers. My father's a teacher. Like 6 or 7 of my cousins are teachers. Many of my aunts and uncles were teachers. 2 things a teacher does. Number 1 is they simplify. That's a skill. That's a talent. It's a technique even. Number 2, what a teacher does is they filter out. Everybody knows watching the stream, there's unlimited information. We live in a golden age of information. Golden age, meaning there's just everything is there for you. So much. But the problem is there's a lot of not too good stuff. So instead of before, when I was learning this stuff in the early 90s, where I had to go to bookstores and buy these thick books, and I would spend $3,000 to $4,000 a year on the development books and training. $3,000 to $4,000 a year I would spend. I would power through these things. I thought to myself, okay, I spend $3,000 to $4,000 a year, but if I make $100 grand, $150 grand, $200 grand, it's nothing, right? The training was more than worth it. But now you got all this, so much stuff out there, a lot of it for free. Problem is, a lot of the free stuff, not so good. So you have to filter out, it's hard to filter out the good from the bad, especially if you're not a developer and you don't have that experience. See, for me now, and people with some experience, they don't need to do courses, they don't need to find good teachers, because I just go to the Golang site and I'm able to break down the language just looking at some code very quickly. So imagine, you saw me live, I did it in a minute or two. Imagine in real time, imagine if it's 20 minutes or half an hour just going through stuff. I would learn Golang pretty quick, no course required, right? So that's the problem. I don't know how good that academy is, because I don't know how good their teachers are. That is the key of everything. Platform helps a lot. In full transparency, I developed the StudioWeb platform, it's my platform, and I developed it based on my understanding of teaching and psychology, etc., to make it really easy for people to learn. It's all engineered into it. So, but they could be good. If they got good teachers, they could be good. That being said, I know JetBrains, they write good software, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're good teachers. All right, let's see what Junior has to say. Hey, Stef. Got interested in making auth web service, been reading on what makes secure auth. Any tips? Off top of my head, no. Just take your time, and just write it, experiment with it, and then try to break it. But no tips off the top of my head. In terms of authentication, for me, I just use what's built into frameworks personally. Ahmed has said, just a question, how to make a video editing app or program, what language to achieve? That's a good one. Video editing requires a lot of juice, meaning a lot of resources from the computer, a lot of horsepower. So you're probably going to go native with that. I would definitely be going C++ with that, on whether Windows or I guess it would be Objective-C on the Mac platform. Do they do an Objective-C still? They may do it Swift, but yeah, I would be writing that native just because it's a heavy processes to edit video. That's for sure. Hey, Rob, how you doing, Rob? Any tips for getting freelance clients in the U.S.? Yeah, very good website, very well written. It's all about communication skills. At the end of the day, the difference between you not getting a job as a freelancer and getting a job, wherever it is in the world, is going to be about communication, clarity of your communication, well-written, concise, to the point. That's the key. Good-looking site. The freelance boards are dominated by Eastern coders. Ooh, I didn't get the rest of that. There we go. Here we go. The freelance boards are dominated by Eastern coders having the ability to charge substantially less than Westerners. Yeah, don't worry about that, because I talk about that in my freelance course, where you can, once you establish yourself, you'll be able to make very good money. I tell this story where a friend of mine, it was a couple of years ago now, I suppose, he wanted to build an app that was real estate related. So he decided to hire somebody in Eastern Europe off a board because the price looked pretty cheap. They quoted pretty cheap. But at the end of the day, I think he spent, I forget now, it's either 5,000 or 10,000 USD in a month, which is, cheap developer. Once you establish yourself, you got things set up, you can make a lot of money. I know some of these people in the East, they're probably making bucket loads of money once they set themselves up properly. OOP is confusing. Why need you use OOP and why? Okay, if you go to my site, killerphp.com, or you just type in PHP OOP tutorials, you'll find my 22-step OOP tutorial. It's free, written. You do that, and you're going to magically understand OOP. I almost guarantee it. I wrote that piece 10,000 years ago, that OOP tutorial. I wrote it for a web design magazine. I don't know if they still exist or not. It was a big one of those big, huge magazines. And I challenged myself, I want to teach non-programmers OOP concepts. And I did it with PHP because PHP is so important in the freelance game. But those lessons will apply to any OOP language. You understand why we do it, how to do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reason you write OOP code is to properly segment it, to sort of divide it into neat packages so that it's easy to update and edit. Also, once you understand OOP concepts, it's easier to design complex software systems. So for example, if you're building a social media platform, let's say you want to build the new Facebook, which you wouldn't want to do, but let's say you want to, you would have code that would just handle authentication and login. So that would be, you can segment that into proper objects there. And then you can have other objects that handle just displaying post. And you would have other objects that handle just validating emails, et cetera, et cetera. It allows you to just create segments, chunks of code that are organized. And so that makes it easier for you to plan and build and update projects, but also makes it easier for you to work with other people. So you could you can say, Jim will handle all the database stuff, I don't know, Karamali, there we go, Karamali, you're going to handle all the authentication layers. Chin Chins is going to take care of all the design and the front end stuff. I hope that makes sense. How we're doing for time, not bad. Chin Chin, morning in India, there we go. So I got you on a job right away in the morning. Now you're designing user interfaces. Okay. I am a PG student in computer application, currently doing web development for 1 to 2 years and have some projects, but now I am confused. Should I pursue web development or go into digital marketing? Well, you're a student, so I would learn it, because even if you become a digital marketer, you have those coding skills, which will be super valuable for you. That is for sure. I think you might find, though, unless you own the agency, as an employee, you're probably going to make more money as a web designer than as a digital marketer. But who knows? Golang is equal Dart? I don't know. You know what I'll do? If people give me enough thumbs up on this video, or comments about how, under this video, about whether or not they like me doing a quick look at a language like Golang or Dart, I could start doing that, just popping in, doing hello world for different languages. Morning from Australia. Way to go, Ben V. All right. Danielle. Is it a good idea to put software I worked on in my portfolio if I can't really share the code because it was for a private company? My demo linking to GitHub is better, right? Yeah, I should have mentioned that, yeah. If you have code that you can display publicly, definitely, yeah, have a link to your GitHub. No, you could just show the app. If you could show something that has some complexity, right? You know, if I was going to go, for whatever reason, all hell broke loose, I wanted to get a job at a company that developed I don't know, training applications or something. I could show them StudioWeb. They wouldn't have to necessarily look at the code base. They could just look at what it does, all the things that it does, and I tell them what I've done and what I did in this, and what I did, you know. And at some point, they'll probably want to look at your code. But yeah, so there you go. I want to be a full stack developer. Is it good in the way to learn web design too for a job? I don't understand that question. How long should it take to become a full stack freelance developer? You can get there, at least with my stuff, within 45 to 60 days, entry level, beginner. I say that because I know people have done it. But if you take your time, you do it in 3 months, 6 months, you can start getting paid low level. When you start, you see the big salaries developers make. It's not, you don't start like, boom, you're making a big salary. You start off small, but very quickly you rise up as you start getting better. All right, Splinter Shell, excuse me. Steven, still confused, struggling to learn code by night and working in the day in mobile repairing, studying my degree in physics. I have a really good background in mathematics. Okay. If you're good in math, you like math, then you probably want to maybe look at AI programming, data science programming. That's where the math may come in handy, will come in handy, especially AI, machine learning. Other than that, if you want to get into web stack, mobile development, most app development, math is very unimportant. You hardly do any math. That's a misnomer it's an illusion put out there by people. I don't know why they do, but I guess maybe because of schools. Most programming, not all, but most programming, there is very little math. We're talking add and subtract, and even that, very little. In most programming, most business programming and development, it's more about problems of logic and architecture and structure, not math. Learning math could help you develop an analytical mind, et cetera, but it's an illusion. In most programming, math is not important, except for things like maybe game engine programming and, of course, AI. But yeah, in terms of struggling, all I suggest to you, and I'm going to have this in the Lizard Wizard Volume 1. I'm going to include that. When you're learning something new, you want to create momentum, and you do that by consistent exposure. So only if you do just 20 minutes a day, sit there and write some code, 20 minutes a day, and you make sure, even if you don't feel like it, you rather play Apex or Call of Duty, and you're tired, just do 20 minutes, just 20 minutes. And then after the 20 minutes, if you don't feel like doing any more, then that's it, you've done your 20 minutes. I'm telling you that the daily exposure, even 20 minutes, which is easy to do, you're gonna make progress, and it's be quicker than you think. So 2 points about that. A, what you're gonna learn about our brains is that the more often that it is presented with something, the more quickly it's gonna adapt to it, the more quickly it's going to learn. The brain responds to frequency of exposure more than time. So frequency is key. Every day, 20 minutes, but also give yourself at least 2 days off. 2 days off. You gotta give your brain time to rest, to assimilate, to process all this new information, okay? So that's off the top of my head, a couple quick tips there on learning. All right, so we're gonna end off with a few more questions. Looking forward to the Lizard course. Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm having fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm just, gonna have fun with that. Make it funny. Got some funny stories. Stomped. At the moment, I am merging in code from a well-regarded group in India. They still stomped all over my existing navigation, the CSS. Well, don't worry about that. Just keep learning. Stomped, I assume that they criticize it. That's okay. That's normal. I assume that's what you mean by stomped. Stomped, like stepped on, right? All right, John Schnell, Stef Legend Teacher. Thank you. My first question on a live session, and sorry if this has been answered already. How do you feel about the no-code revolution? Yeah, I know people are worried about that, and it's been answered before, but I'll answer it again. Quick answer, don't worry about it. No-code revolution has been revoluting for a long time now. There has been these type of tools developed for 20 years. They're getting better every time, and it doesn't take away the developer job. It just changes it. and it's better. I'm all for you as a professional developer to be aware of the no-code solutions out there and to leverage them when it makes sense. What you are going to find is that these type of solutions typically work and a very narrow scope. Meaning, if you're developing an application that is falls within the boundaries of their no-code solution, then fine. But as soon as you want to go outside of it, all hell breaks loose. It's common. But of course, in the old days, you had a very limited capacity. Now it's getting like this. Typically, no-code solutions are good for very small projects, prototyping, ideas, etc. That all said, a big part about development is not writing the code necessarily. It's architecture. It's UI UX if it's a front-facing application. So you just got to look at it as being a power tool. I don't see it as a threat to development. Okay. When is the Lizard Wizard coming out? Very soon. I'm working on it now. I'm releasing little summary snippets of various chapters and stuff. What is Wizard Lizard? This is my new course, ebook that basically maps out the operating system and the language of your brain. And you're going to discover things about your brain. We have two brains. We have the logical brain, the brain that does 2 + 2 and learns how to code. And then we have our lower brain called, in the science, it's actually called the lizard brain. And what they discovered recently is that the lizard brain is actually far, far more powerful than the higher brain, than the logical brain. And what they also discovered, which changes the whole way science looks at how humans live and exist, is that the lizard brain is in charge of the game. And most people don't understand it, and they run through life like a pinball, bouncing all over the place, because the lizard's in control. The lizard is the lizard brain. So I'm going to teach you about this. I'm going to teach you how the operating system of your brain is really going to be very practical. So I gave you little tips. Like I taught you just now, I said frequency of exposure in learning something is more important than time. That's lizard knowledge. That's lizard lore. That's lizard skill. That's because I know how the operating system of the brain works. I know exposure is the key. Frequency of exposure, rather, is the key, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this guide is going to have a profound impact, not just in your learning how to code and getting a job and your interpersonal relationships and dating and starting a business, losing weight, controlling your own emotions, feeling good about yourself. It's going to teach you all this stuff. It's going to give you practical roadmap. Been very useful for me. I learned this from psychology. I keep up to date, but I also learned a lot of this stuff from, I did martial arts for almost 30 years, I guess, from business experience, from coding experience, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the stuff about our brains, people had discovered bits and pieces of it a long time ago, 1,000 years ago even. But only now the science figured out why. The example I like to give is breathing. Everybody knows, in all the major religions and meditations, everybody knows if you breathe slowly and deeply, it calms you down. It calms your nervous, it calms you down emotionally. So if you're feeling anxious and deep, slow breaths, slow motions, it calms you down. They've known this for thousands of years, but now we know why. Now we know why. We knew how to do it. I learned how to do this in martial arts, when I was like 10 years old, but now we know why. With the science, neuroscientists and psychologists have figured this out. So anyway, that's the lizard wizard. It's all that kind of stuff. All right, how are we doing here? Okay, we're going to cut it off very soon because we're already at 40 minutes. All right, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm sold for your Wizard Lizard course. So, for example, something I discovered when I first started learning about this type of stuff as a teenager, and I did my first official psychology course when I was like 17 or 18, and I remembered something that I remember it freaked me out. It was like, wow. And I remembered that how you say something oftentimes is much more important than what it is you say. How you present it, has a much bigger impact than the actual words or the meaning of the words. And in fact, how you present it can change the perceived meaning of the words as far as people are hearing. So that's why sometimes you get into debates and the way you present it, if you don't present it in the right way, you're going to get a reaction that's opposite to what you think. And it's not that people are trying to piss you off. It's just that people are literally getting another message that you're conveying, but you don't understand, but you're conveying that message. So what I did is I went around. I remember when I first learned this, I was like, wow. And I went around and I experimented. And sure enough, anyway, I won't get into it here on a public stream, but it's a pretty funny story. All right. All right. What's going on? 41. All right, that's it. I'll focus. Last question, then I'm out of here. How fast to increase difficulty of subject when learning? How fast to increase difficulty of subject when learning? I think that's where a well-structured course comes into play. Generally speaking, when you're learning something new, like a programming language, as an example, once you get past the fundamentals, you should get off the baby wheels and you should just get into the game. You should start actually trying to write real code from scratch. A lot of people get stuck in this, and they call it tutorial hell. They keep doing tutorials because they feel insecure about what they know or don't know. In the reality of the situation, there's no developer in the world, none, that know more than 1 or 2% of what's going on out there in the development world. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I've been doing this since 1994. I now today forget most of what I used to know. I could learn it back very quickly because I knew it before, but I forget most of it. So you have to take that leap of faith and understand. Once you understand the fundamentals, so you understand the basic structures of code, like I just did with Golang. I don't know anything about Golang, but I was able to go in there, look at simple code. It's hello world, it's very simple, but I understand a lot about the language already, just like boom, because I have that experience. So you just have to do your fundamentals, and once you're comfortable writing code, you got to go out there and write real things. Do something. Get out of tutorials, and let the scope of the projects expose you to more advanced things. Now, the fundamentals should teach you, like would say, is JavaScript. You should learn about the basic constructs of the language. You should learn about object orientation, the prototypical nature of JavaScript. You should understand how JavaScript works with the browser, the DOM, etc. Blah, 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 blah. These are all the basics you should know. But after that, again, misconception about a lot of young developers or up and coming people who want to be developers saying they think they have to know it all and then they just jump in and use the skills that they know. It doesn't work that way. You learn your fundamentals and then you learn a lot as you work and build. Okay? All right, guys, that's it. If you like this stream, you like the style, give me a thumbs up. I think I solved my streaming issue. We had some bandwidth issues before. That's it. I hope the video was clear for everybody. Looks pretty good, I think. Good stream. See, a little more lizard tip. I know that if the video is clear and looks cool, and the sound is clear, looks cool, it's going to be more interesting to you. You're more likely to want to listen to what I have to say, as opposed to if it was really bad sound. So I make a point to work on making sure that the sound is clear, that the video is clear, that you can see. Right? This is the way our brains are, okay? Derpty derp, CGI main. That's cool. I know these references. Just dropping by to jab, jab, right hook, that like button. I appreciate that. Also, Mr. Drumset, thanks for streaming. Cool. No, thanks for dropping by. That's cool. CGI, yeah. My new place, I don't know if they would appreciate the drum set, but yeah, I miss it too. All right, guys. Thanks for dropping in. We're going to jump into my ASMR boat video that I like anyway. Ciao, guys.